Hello and welcome to Leadership Clarity Podcast, and I'm the host of it, Dilara Dasmakova. Today is a very important day because we are launching the podcast. And we start off with episode 1, which is called The Cost of Being Direct and the Leadership Power of Pause. And what this podcast is going to be about? It's going to be a space for practical reflections on leadership, boardroom readiness, business thinking, communication, and personal growth. And not as an abstract theory, but as real leadership practice. That kind of practice that we need in meetings, negotiations, boardroom style discussions, and difficult conversations where clarity, judgment, and maturity matter. Today, I want to start with a topic that is very close to me: direct communication. And more specifically, the cost of being direct and the leadership power of pause. And I'm going to speak about it from my personal experience because I am one of the direct communicators. I value clarity, substance, progress, and time. I do not naturally enjoy going around the bush. When I see the issue, I prefer to name it. And when I see the gap, I want to address it. When I see a risk, I do not want to decorate it so much to the point that it disappears. For many years, I saw the directness mainly as strength, and in many situations, it is. Direct communication can cut through noise. It can move a difficult discussion forward. It can protect a team from confusion, and it can save time, money, and energy, especially in complex business environments where decisions matter and delays have consequences. But with maturity, I learned something important. Directness is powerful, but if it moves faster than people can process it, it can actually create gaps instead of alignment. And that is where leadership maturity begins. A direct communicator is not necessarily someone who lacks empathy. No. Many direct communicators are thoughtful, analytical, practical, and emotionally aware. They can read the room, they can sense tension, they can care deeply about people and outcomes. But direct communicators often think fast. They connect dots quickly. They might see the weak assumptions, the hidden risks, the vague answer, or the gap in logic before others have fully processed the discussion. And because they see it, they name it. Yes, sometimes clearly, sometimes sharply, and yes, sometimes too quickly. Usually, not because they are trying to hurt anyone. Often the intention is the opposite. They are trying to help the room get to clarity faster. But leadership is not only about intentions, leadership is also about impact. What we intend as clarity may land as pressure. What we intend as decisiveness may actually land as impatience. What we intend as focus may land as dismissal. And when that happens, the message may technically be right, but not fully received, and that is the key point. The cost of directness is not always visible in the moment. The meeting may look efficient, the issue has been named, the room is quiet, the discussion moves on, but silence does not always mean agreement. Sometimes silence means people are still processing. Sometimes it means hesitation. And another times it means someone has a concern but has not found a space to voice it yet. And then the cost appears. The issue comes back. Another meeting is needed. The decision gets recycled. People interpret the meeting differently. Execution slows down and trust becomes thinner. The very thing directness was trying to avoid, which is wasted time, it actually starts happening. And that's the irony. A direct communicator may be direct because they want efficiency, but without pause, directness can create rework, and rework costs time. It costs energy. It may actually cost opportunity. And in leadership, it can cost influence. And for women, there's another layer here. For women leaders, direct communication offers carries extra weight. A direct man may be described as decisive. A direct woman may be described as difficult. Yes, not always, but often enough for many women to recognize that pattern. And that creates a real tension. If a woman softens too much, she may feel she's diluting her truth. If she speaks too directly, she may be labeled as aggressive, challenging, emotional, or hard to manage, especially if she's not only direct but also analytical, experienced, and able to see what's missing. That combination can be powerful. And sometimes, in rooms that are not mature enough, that power can feel threatening. So, what's the answer? The answer is not for women to become smaller. No. The answer is not to lose strength or to become less sharp or less honest or less clear. The real work is to make strengths land better. Because leadership is not only about being right, it's about being heard, understood, respected, and followed. We do not need to be loved by everyone in the room, but we do need our message to land with enough clarity and credibility that people can understand it, trust it, and act upon it. So, how do we make direct communication stronger and not softer? How do we keep the clarity, the honesty, and the speed of thinking, but have the message land better? And let me introduce the clarity framework. It is a practical way to enter serious conversations, boardroom discussions, tough negotiations, leadership meetings, and difficult feedback sessions with more readiness. Not only readiness to speak, no, but with readiness to listen, to align, to shift, and to move. And let me walk you through the clarity framework. So, C stands for clarify the purpose. Before a serious conversation, a direct communicator often already has a strong point. You may already see the issue. You may already know what's missing. You may already feel the urgency, but before you speak, please clarify the purpose. Because purpose changes the tone. If my purpose is to prove that I am right, the room will feel that. If my purpose is to expose a weak point, the room will feel that too. But if my purpose is to improve the quality of the decision, protect the outcome, and help people see the issue clearly, the energy changes and the word's choice changes. The same direct message can land differently when it comes from a clear purpose. Next, L. Listen for what is not said. And I do not mean polite listening, I mean leadership listening. Listen to the words, but also listen for hesitation, for silence, for careful wording, for tension, for the person who suddenly becomes quieter, for the concern that is not yet fully expressed. This is especially important for direct communicators because we often move quickly. We see the point, we name the point, we want to move, but sometimes the room has not caught up yet. And if we move too fast, we may miss the most important signal. And that's why listening is not slowing down for the sake of being soft. Listening is how we protect the quality of the decision. A mature leader does not only listen to what's said, a mature leader listens to what the room is trying to say. Next, A. Ask a question that shifts the room. But please, not too many questions, not to overwhelm the room. You need a few questions that actually move the conversation, not decorative questions, real ones. Questions that change the tone, questions that help people pause, breathe, and see what's really happening. And let me suggest the three questions to use. First, what are we trying to protect here? The decision, the relationship, the timeline, or someone's prior position? This question cuts through noise. Sometimes people argue about the technical point, but underneath, they are protecting something else. A timeline, a reputation, a previous commitment, a relationship, a fear of being wrong. But once that becomes visible, the conversation becomes more honest. Second question. What is the real concern we have not named yet? This question creates space for truth. It signals that silence is not enough. In a negotiation, it can serve as the point that is actually blocking the progress. In a leadership meeting, it can reveal the execution risk everyone feels, but no one has said so directly. In a boardroom setting, it can move the discussion from the presentation to judgment. And the third one is this: if we move forward with this, what must be clear for people to act with confidence? This question turns the conversation toward action. It moves people from abstract agreement to practical readiness because alignment is not only when people say, "Yes, I agree." Alignment means people understand what has been decided, why it matters, what trade offs exist, and what happens next. Next letter, R. Reflect and reframe. This is one of the most powerful parts of the framework. After someone responds, please do not rush to defend your original point. Reflect first. You might say, "Oh, what I hear is that the concern is not the direction, but the timing." Or, "It sounds like we agree on the goal, but not yet on the level of risk we are willing to accept." Or, "So the real issue may not be the plan itself, but whether the organization has the capacity to execute it," right? These types of questions, they help people feel heard, but it also helps the room think more clearly. Reflection is not just repeating someone's words, it's leadership processing out loud. The answers to these questions help understand the real concern. They help reframe the conversation to what really matters. And that's where clarity deepens, not by adding more words, but by naming what's really happening. Next letter, I, invite alignment. After the issue is named, after people have had space to speak, and after the real concern is clearer, the leader needs to invite alignment, not to force it, but invite it. Because alignment is not the same as silence. People may feel quiet because they agree, yes, but they may also be quiet because they are tired, cautious, confused, or not ready to challenge the direction. So before moving on, create one clean moment. You can say something like this: let's make sure we are aligned before we move to action. And then pause. Let people check themselves. This is not about reopening everything. It's about making sure the room is not pretending to be aligned when it's only quiet. Because false alignment is expensive. Real alignment creates movement. Next letter, T. Take the next step. Clarity must eventually become action. Otherwise, it remains a good conversation. So once the room is aligned enough, close with the next step for the entire clarity by answering these questions. What has actually been decided? Who owns the next move? What needs to be checked? What must be communicated? This part matters because direct communicators may assume that if the issue is clear, the action is also clear. But that's not always true. People may understand the point and still be unsure what to do next. So close the loop with a clear next step plan, and that's where clarity becomes movement. Next letter, why? Your presence sets the tone. So leadership communication is not only about words, it's also about energy. For direct communicators, this matters even more because our words may already carry weight. So our presence needs to carry steadiness. A direct point delivered with tension can feel like pressure. The same direct point delivered with calm can feel like leadership. That's why pause is so powerful. Pause helps the room regulate. But first, it helps you regulate yourself. It gives you a second to breathe, to observe, to choose your next word, and to create space without losing authority. This is not weakness, that is maturity. And if you happen to work with direct communicator, here's my invitation. Do not automatically assume harsh intent. Sometimes the person is not attacking. They may be clarifying. They may be protecting the decision. They may be naming a risk others are avoiding to name. And of course, Direct communicators are responsible for their impact, but listeners also have responsibility because communication breaks down not only when people speak poorly, it also breaks down when people interpret too quickly. Many workplace tensions are built not from facts, but from what? From assumptions. So before you create a story about a person, check the meaning. A simple line can help, like, can I check how you meant that? That one sentence can prevent a lot of unnecessary tension. It moves the conversation from reaction to clarity. To sum it up, direct communication is not the problem. Unprocessed impact is the problem. Speed without space is the problem. And silence mistaken for agreement is the problem. Direct communicators can be powerful leaders, clear, courageous, analytical, practical, deeply useful in complex environments. The next level is to become more impactful. What does it mean? It means to speak clearly, to pause intentionally, to listen deeply, to invite alignment, and to close with action. Because leadership is not becoming louder, it is becoming clearer. And sometimes clarity begins with one disciplined pause. I would love to hear your reflections. If you are a direct communicator, tell me, what has your directness helped you achieve and what has it cost you? And if you work with direct communicators, what helps you hear the message without feeling pushed by their style? Thank you for listening. This was Leadership Clarity Podcast with Dilara Dasmakova.